Good morning, everybody. We will start in just a moment. Just give folks a minute to log in. If you're just joining us, we'll start in just a moment. Just going to give folks another minute or so to log in and get situated. Great. I think I'll get going with some of the more administrative introductory remarks, and hopefully by then we will have reached more of a critical mass of participants. Well, welcome everybody to today's webinar, Leveraging Caregivers, Tools for Training Resource Parents to Support College Success. This is an evaluation of turning dreams into degrees. But before I begin, I want to just go over a few technical issues related to GoToWebinar in case you are not fully familiar with this platform. So just a quick thing on the control panel, you'll see that today's PowerPoint as well as the evaluation report handout can be downloaded from the handout section of the control panel. And as we go along, should you have any questions, feel free to type them in the questions panel. We'll be doing a Q&A at the end of today's presentation, but we will definitely log and note your questions and get back to those at the end. And finally, just a note, today's webinar is being recorded, so all presentation materials and audio will be sent to our registrants and available on the JBay website after the presentation. And if you go into the training archive section of that webpage, you will be able to access all of these materials at a later time, or perhaps share them with a colleague that wasn't able to make it today. So really quickly, just going over today's agenda, the roadmap, what of the areas we're going to cover today. We're going to first talk about the role of caregivers and college success as just an introduction. Then we'll move on to DCFS's training mandate related to the Turning Dreams into Degrees curriculum. We'll then go over foster kinship care education's course delivery of this curriculum. And then we'll go over the findings and recommendations from an independent evaluation that was conducted of the curriculum, then conclude with next steps and a Q&A session. Today's presenters. So we are very fortunate to be joined by Dr. Leslie Ponciano. She is the president and founder of Hope Education Research Solutions, and she conducted the independent evaluation of our curriculum. Barry Ginsberg is the Assistant Regional Administrator at LA DCFS. Maria Granados is Los Angeles Regional Coordinator for Foster and Kinship Care Education and is associated with Los Angeles Mission College. And I am Melissa Bond, Project Manager at John Burton Advocates for Youth. So first, I want to provide some information on JBay and the context surrounding this project. So John Burton Advocates for Youth is a nonprofit organization that improves the quality of life for youth in California who have been in foster care or homeless by advocating for better laws, training communities to strengthen local practices, and conducting research to inform policy solutions. We do so in three main priority areas: education, health, and housing. John Burton Advocates for Youth, or JBay, leads the Foster Youth College Advancement Project, or FICAP, under the umbrella of the LA Opportunity Youth Collaborative, OYC. The OYC's mission is to build cross-sector partnerships to improve education and employment outcomes for transition-age foster youth to thrive. The OYC is a collaborative of over 70 partners from public agencies, community-based organizations, foundations, youth, educational institutions, and employers. One of the FICAP strategies, in partnership with LA County DCFS, has been to launch a higher education training for resource families called Turning Dreams into Degrees. That's the subject of today's webinar. However, before we delve into the further details of the curriculum, to further set the stage for today's presentation, I want to share some background on why we focus on the role of caregivers in supporting youth prepare for higher education. To give you a sense of scale and impact, it's important to note that California is home to approximately 18,000 foster youth between the ages of 12 and 19. About 6,000 of them are in LA County, which is about a third of foster youth statewide. So we are dealing with a significant number of young people who can benefit from higher education, and time is of the essence. Ask any applicant. The college matriculation process is complex and multifaceted. As such, foster youth should begin preparing for this process early on. It is not uncommon for foster youth to postpone college planning until they reach their senior year of high school, or even wait until after high school graduation to begin making a college plan. This type of delayed planning can greatly reduce the likelihood that a foster youth will complete college, as well as limit their college enrollment options and financial aid resources. Thus, it's important that foster youth are engaged in early and sustained conversations about college planning to build their college knowledge and awareness and ensure that they are supported to complete the necessary steps to enroll in a post-secondary educational pathway that best fits their interests and skills. This type of early college planning and support should begin at least in middle school, whether a youth is interested in career and technical education or a four-year degree. So how do caretakers fit into college planning? Research suggests that a caregiver's interactions with children influence cognitive and social development. In particular, the academic achievement of students is enhanced when parents take an active approach to learning. The literature describes these two types of socialization that can happen in the home. Cognitive socialization, which is how caregivers influence intellectual development, and academic socialization, how caregivers affect the development of attitudes and motives necessary for learning. Caretakers are at the center of both. So while it is true for all caretakers and all households, it is important to note that distinct challenges facing foster youth and caretakers supporting them exist. Foster youth are far more likely than other students to face systemic barriers to achieving their educational goals as a result of the trauma that they have faced in the foster care system. These barriers can result in both academic challenges and a greater likelihood of being discouraged around education. Research has found that a number of factors contribute to whether foster youth achieve their full potential. So one is caregiver encouragement or support for educational achievement. The more encouragement that a youth receives, the better the academic achievement. Another factor is mitigating the effects of changes in placements. The number of placements can be a turbulent change of environment, so mitigating the negative effects of that is definitely another factor that leads to academic achievement. Another is the level of expectations or interest by social workers. Having a social worker that believes in you really affects youth achievement. Another is the availability of informed advice about routes to further education. Knowledge is literally power in this arena, and an informed youth is more empowered to make a wise academic achievement for him or her. And lastly, promotion of early financial independence versus investment in education. Deferring earnings today to pursue education is worthwhile in the long run, and this is a lesson that is often difficult to convey appropriately and effectively to many foster youth and youth in general who want to make money today and maybe not seeing the benefits of that deferred compensation. So although the research is clear on the role of caregivers and educational outcomes, Very few interventions include foster parents as advocates or leaders. A 2017 study found that training programs have the potential to impart skills that caregivers need to support youth develop characteristics that might offer protective effects that lead to more positive outcomes in school and in life. Training can do this in two ways. Number one, it can inform parenting practices associated with educational engagement. And two, can help caregivers to foster the socio-emotional skills in youth that lead to high educational attainment and school engagement. So, caregiver impact. In addition, another study has found that youth who ever talked about college with their caregivers are over 8 times more likely to attend a 4-year college than those who don't. I'll repeat that powerful finding. Youth who ever talked about college with their caregivers are over 8 times more likely to attend a 4-year college than those who don't. Equipping caregivers with the language and skills to talk to youth about college can have a significant positive impact. This is why we have chosen to focus on the role of caregivers as a strategy to empower foster youth to pursue higher education. Findings such as these led the LA County Department of Child and Family Services, or LA DCFS, to require licensed caregivers to become trained on preparing youth for college starting in middle school. This curriculum, called Turning Dreams into Degrees, developed by JBay and Unite LA, is being used in Los Angeles and is available statewide to other counties interested in training caregivers, such as resource families and short-term residential therapeutic programs, or STRTP providers, to better support foster youth to enroll and succeed in college. Before turning it over to Barry Ginsberg of DCFS to talk about the training mandate, I want to recognize first how trailblazing DCFS has been in embracing this curriculum and making it mandatory part of caregiver training. DCFS LA is the first and only county in California to require such training for caregivers and has been a true model for other jurisdictions to follow as the awareness and role of caregivers in higher education preparation increases. So I'll next turn it over to Barry to talk about the training mandate.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Barry Ginsberg. I'm an assistant regional administrator with the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services in the Resource Family Support and Permanency Division. Next slide, please. Higher education leads to a greater likelihood of achieving a meaningful career and self-sufficiency. Over the course of a person's lifetime, having a bachelor's degree leads to 74% more in earnings than those with just a high school diploma. This is $2.3 million over a lifetime. In addition, 65% of all jobs now require some form of higher education. The disparities created by a lack of post-secondary training are more apparent than ever right now. Those most likely to lose jobs during the current crisis are those in jobs that require only a high school diploma. It's also not just about the money. A college degree is also associated with a number of other positive life outcomes, including lower rates of incarceration, improved health outcomes, higher levels of civic participation, including voting, greater likelihood of one's children attending college, and increased career satisfaction. Next slide, please. DCFS recognizes that youth who obtain a higher education have a greater likelihood of achieving a meaningful career and self-sufficiency. Surveys have shown that 88% of foster youth aspire to attend college. However, studies show that only 8% of foster youth achieve an AA or bachelor's degree by the age of 26. DCFS is committed to ensuring not only the physical safety of our youth, but also supporting their overall well-being and self-sufficiency. There are many adults involved in the life of a foster youth. However, resource parents have frequent and daily contact with the youth in their care. DCFS was aware that resource parents often don't have the information and tools needed to assist youth to successfully complete college. Given the poor higher educational outcomes for foster youth and the critical role of a caregiver in the life of a foster youth, DCFS believes that the new higher education training courses will increase the capacity of resource parents to assist the youth in their care with college planning and will improve the educational outcomes for youth. Next slide, please. Previously, resource families were required to complete 8 hours of annual training to maintain their license, but they had the discretion to select any topics of their choosing. Now, since March of 2019, DCFS requires that all DCFS resource parents who have at least one court-dependent youth in their care between the ages of 12 and 19 complete one of two courses, which will satisfy 3 of the required 8 hours of annual training. Each course is approximately 3 hours in length. And if the caregiver has more than one youth in their care, they are only required to complete one education course. And it's recommended that they complete the course that corresponds with the age of the oldest youth. These hours must be completed through a DCFS-approved training provider upon completion of the first annual update and before completion of the second annual update. The state is moving to an in-person visit now every 2 years, but the training requirement is still 8 hours annually. The reason this requirement was set to occur during the second year was due to the fact that LA County had already prescribed the training hours for resource parents during their first year post-approval. And this training requirement aligns with the state's written directives. Education Course 1 is for caregivers who have youth in grades 6 to 10 in their care. Education Course 2 is for caregivers who have youth in grades 11 to 12 in their care or are recent high school graduates. Maria will discuss later in the presentation what topics are covered within each course and who provides these trainings. Progress and compliance is tracked. When training is completed, caregivers receive a certificate and provide a copy to the Caregiver Monitoring and Support CSW at the annual recertification process to verify completion. Completion is tracked within BINTI. BINTI is the name of DCFS's internal tracking database system that we are currently utilizing. If the resource parent does not complete the required training, a corrective action plan will be implemented by the Caregiver Monitoring and Support CSW. This is the same process that currently exists if caregivers do not complete the requirements for recertification. The trainer also tracks attendance if the caregiver loses their certificate or needs verification, it is available. Next, I'll turn it over to Maria Granados of FKCE to talk about how the courses are delivered to caregivers.
Thanks, Barry. Hi, everyone. I'm Maria Granados. I'm the Regional Coordinator for Foster and Kinship Care Education for Los Angeles County. And I will be discussing the course delivery of Turning Dreams into Degrees. Foster and Kinship Care Education, also known as FKCE, is a statewide program through the California Community College's Chancellor's Office that provides caregiver education to foster parents, relative and kinship caregivers, and non-relative extended family members. Nowadays, all caregivers are referred to as resource parents. There are 57 programs across California that provide FKCE training. In some counties, the training provided by FKCE includes both pre-service and in-service training. And in other counties, such as Los Angeles, county, the annual renewal or in-service training is provided by the FKC program to resource parents. The FKCE training provided meets the resource family approval training requirements, and the FKC program is both housed and run through specific community colleges in California. This program has been in existence since 1984. The training topics that are offered align with the resource family approval, also known as RFA, topic codes, and meet the RFA written directives, annual written directive requirements for the state of California. Resource parents take the FKCE training to keep their RFA approval active with their county so they can continue to care for children and youth in the child welfare system. These workshops are free of charge to resource parents. Next slide. On the screen, you will see the 17 community colleges that provide the foster and kinship care education program in Los Angeles. And they are housed again at the community colleges. I ran some statistics, and in 2019-2020, for our fiscal year, we provided 21% of the training in the state of California. The FKC program works collaboratively with each of their counties or child welfare agencies regarding the training needs of resource parents based on state mandates listed in the RFA written directives. In Los Angeles, FKC collaborates with LA County DCFS, as we mentioned earlier. Together, we have developed training for resource parents, including training resource parents who are caring for parenting teens in the child welfare system, and special care increment training for those who care for children with special needs. We refer to that training as D&F rate. Recently, we collaborated with JBay and LA Unite on the development of higher education training, which we also refer to as turning dreams into degrees. This training is mandatory in LA County for resource parents who care for teens ages 12 to 19, as Barry mentioned earlier. From April 2019 through April 2020 in Los Angeles County, we trained over 645 resource parents. Now let me talk a little bit about the curriculum. The higher education training is also, like I said, referred to as turning dreams into degrees, and it's a training that was designed to empower resource parents to support foster youth to enroll and succeed in college. These trainings were developed by JBay and LA Unite with the support and input of FKCE. Previously, there was no specific training available on these topics. The curriculum also includes the ability to empower resource parents to discuss the value of higher ed with their youth and provides ideas on how they can play an active role in supporting their youth in college. There's 2 training modules available for caregivers based on the grade the child in care in their home is currently in. Each workshop is 3 hours in length and available in both English and Spanish. The first training is entitled Turning Dreams into Degrees, Course 1, Supporting Foster Youth Through Early College Awareness and Preparation. This course is designed for resource parents with students, foster youth students in grades 6 through 10. In this training, we discuss the importance of planting the seeds of higher education early on and empower the resource parents to discuss the value of higher education with their youth. Even though resource parents' child might be in middle school and college can seem far away, this is the time to start planting that seed and getting youth accustomed to college and learn about and to teach them about college. In this curriculum, caregivers learn the significance of early college exploration and preparation and the key steps that they can take to help the youth turn their dreams into degrees with the support of their resource parent. This occurs by explaining the benefits of post-secondary education. Barry kind of covered that already, how if you have a bachelor's degree, you're more likely to get employed and have a higher income. Also, we recognize the unique barriers foster youth face in education and the impact of trauma. So foster youth may have multiple placements, multiple school placements, have difficulty building trust, and we discuss that in the curriculum. We also discuss how to use a trauma-informed approach with foster youth. We also identify strategies to create a college-going culture in the home. We discuss how early exposure to college really makes a difference. So we talk about exposing foster youth to college sports teams, putting up college posters, and really just exposing that youth early on to the college life. We also describe the resources and supports that are available to help foster youth achieve their post-secondary educational goals. So we talk about financial aid or FAFSA and other services available or other grants available, such as the Chafee grant. We also identify resources to help students explore their career interests and college pathways. So we show caregivers how to go log on to certain websites like Career Zone, so they can go on that website with the youth in their care to figure out what is the best career for the child in their care. We also describe key educational planning milestones between 6th and 10th grade, such as meeting with counselors early on, and making sure that the youth is attending school on a consistent basis, as well as keeping track of their A to G high school requirements. Next slide. The second training available through FKC is available to resource parents with students in grades 11th and 12th, or recent high school graduates. This second workshop is entitled Turning Dreams into Degrees, Education Course 2, Supporting Successful Transitions from High School to College. This course is designed to help resource parents understand how to support their youth make a smooth transition from high school to college, and helps resource parents learn the benefits and different pathways available to support youth in making a plan for college. Resource parents learn the key steps youth must take in their junior and senior year of college and the supports and resources that exist to help the youth along the way. This is accomplished by explaining the benefits of post-secondary education. We already mentioned that: higher income, higher likelihood of being employed if you have a degree. We also identify resources to help students explore their career interests and college pathways. Again, here we teach resource parents about other resources online, like the living wage calculator, how much a career actually pays, and how to go about going into that career. We also describe key educational planning milestones between 11th and 12th grade, such as when to take the SAT or ACT, and making sure that youth are using their summers wisely to catch up on some of the missed coursework they may have had because or due to multiple placements. We also describe the specific resources and benefits and supports available to foster youth to achieve post-secondary educational goals. So those are support programs at the community colleges, such as the Guardian Scholars Program, EOPS, and CAFES programs. Next slide. The beauty of this program is you can just go to the John Burton website, www.jabaorg/caregiver-higher ed training, and all the material is online. That includes a facilitator's guide, PowerPoint slides, all the vignettes are online. There are a couple versions, as mentioned earlier, and specifically for resource parents. There's an LA County version, as well as a version for those who are in different parts of the state. Next slide. When we came up with this training, we also discussed the importance of a criteria for trainers. So what we discussed was making sure that those who are working for the FKC program were included in the training pool, as well as those who had a bachelor's degree or any background in college planning or working with foster youth. So we set up a criteria to ensure that those who were training had some expertise in the area of college planning. Next slide. We also came up prior to COVID-19, we were offering this higher ed course, Turning Dreams into Degrees, in a classroom setting, and enrollment did vary. We came up with a master calendar and with all the colleges, and we shared this calendar with both DCFS and resource parents so they could enroll in the courses. Due to COVID-19, the FKC programs all had to change their presentation modality from in-person to online. Most programs changed to Zoom classes using a synchronous teaching model. With that said, FKCE programs actually had an increase in enrollment once we went online. But we also had to make some adjustments to the curriculum. So we made our curriculum Zoom friendly, and we incorporated some of the Zoom features such as the whiteboard and the polling setting. So we changed the curriculum to make sure it continued to be interactive, but in an online format. To ensure we're providing high quality training, we also had an independent evaluation of the training. So next I'm going to turn it over to Leslie Ponciano, the independent researcher who conducted an independent evaluation of turning dreams into degrees. And she's going to highlight some of which she will share, some of the highlights of the evaluation. She's going to share that with us. Thanks again, Leslie.
Thank you, Maria. Welcome, everybody. My name is Leslie Ponciano. I'm the founder and president of Hope Ed Research Solutions, an independent consulting company that provides program design and evaluation, efficacy research, and professional development for educational institutions and nonprofit organizations. I'm also the director of research opportunities for the California State University Chancellor's Office, where I serve as a mentor and provide professional development for faculty, research administrators, and staff at all 23 campuses in grant writing and research design, and where I build interdisciplinary research communities. My background in higher education includes academic program development and administration, as well as teaching at the undergraduate and graduate levels in applied developmental psychology at UCLA, child and family studies at Cal State Los Angeles, and early childhood education at Loyola Marymount University. And earlier in my career, I was a social worker and a social work supervisor for a private nonprofit foster care organization. I'm also the parent of 4 children, one of whom came to our family through the foster care system. I was honored to be selected to conduct this evaluation because I am dedicated to creating strength-based environments for youth in foster care to grow and develop to their fullest potential. Independent evaluations for training programs that impact the care of vulnerable groups of children are critically important in order to achieve a high level of rigor, to establish efficacy, and to provide a safe space for those involved to share authentic feedback. The evaluation was charged with answering 4 research questions. Does the on-site training lead to a positive change in caregivers' knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors with the youth in their care? Are there elements of the training that can be changed to make it more effective? Is there a difference in effectiveness based on the teacher? What are the recommendations for effectively converting the on-site training to an online delivery? The evaluation yielded 3 main findings and 4 recommendations that I will share with you in the upcoming slides. Members of my research team attended 14 FKCE classes and invited those who were enrolled to consent to the completion of 2 short surveys and a follow-up 3 months later via text, email, or phone call. To protect identity, a unique research ID was assigned to each participating resource parent in order to match and compare responses from the pre-survey to the post-survey. The pre-survey had 2 sections, education and experience questions, as well as belief and attitudes questions. The post-survey had the same beliefs and attitudes questions as well as course evaluation questions. They were short so as not to impede instructional time, and they were provided in both Spanish and English. Follow-up contact information was provided by the participants on the consent forms, and the research team attempted contact 3 months after each participant completed the course. The participating resource parents were asked to recall 3 ideas they remembered from the course, if they had used any of the ideas from the course, if they would recommend the course, and if they were communicating with the youth and/or social worker about college planning. We received 162 complete pre and post surveys and 79 follow-up responses. Additionally, 9 FKCE teachers completed a survey at the end of each course, and 10 FKCE teachers participated in an online focus group in June of 2020. Their survey included the highest level of school completion and their training experience, their assessment of how likely the course would impact resource parent activity related to college planning, increase resource parent knowledge and comfort with college planning, if they would recommend the course to resource parents, and the extent to which the resource parents were engaged with the content and participating in the course activities. The FKCE teachers were also asked to respond to the same beliefs, attitudes questions and course content evaluation questions. The discussion prompts of the focus group and the interviews were intended to provide more context about the courses, the participating resource parents, as well as the teacher perspective. Next slide. All of the completed surveys by resource parents recommended the course, found the teacher to be knowledgeable and the information to be important. All of the teacher surveys also recommended the course and indicated that they were comfortable with the content and found the curriculum to be empowering and informative. The teachers were very positive about the level of engagement and interactivity from those who were enrolled in the course. Resource parents, oh, sorry, go back to that previous slide. Thank you. Resource parents and teachers were asked what they would change about the course, and 90% of the resource parents said nothing. 3% suggested a change in the delivery mode, 6% suggested changes in scheduling the course, and 1% suggested changes in teaching methods. FKCE teachers were more critical in their responses, but remained solidly enthusiastic and supportive of the existing courses. In the survey, 44% of the FKCE teachers preferred no changes be made in the courses. 44% suggested changes in the content, and 12% suggested changes in format. In the focus group, they suggested the following changes to the content. They suggested including information about dual enrollment, including resource parents of children younger than 6th grade, providing a form for the educational goals of each youth that is stored in the home in the school file and in the case file, warning resource parents about the lack of housing for students who choose community college or trade school, and a heavier emphasis on the importance of building strong caregiver-child relationships. Next slide. Resource parents reported higher than expected ratings of prior knowledge on the pre-survey before attending the course. This created a ceiling effect that limits the potential for growth from pre to post. However, despite this limitation, the post-survey revealed that the course had a positive impact on participants' beliefs, attitudes, and knowledge about college planning for youth in foster care. With a 5-point Likert scale, strongly agree to strongly disagree, resource parents were asked to rate their belief that there is a path to college for all students. On the pre-survey, 28% agreed or strongly agreed with that statement, but on the post-survey, 55% agreed or strongly agreed, representing a 96% increase. A question on the survey that assessed attitude about college planning for youth in foster care was, I think that youth over 12 years are interested in college. On the same Likert scale, 65% agreed or strongly agreed on the pre-survey, and 84% agreed or strongly agreed on the post-survey, indicating a 29% increase. Lastly, an example of a question that assessed knowledge was, how well do you think you can answer questions from youth about college planning? Resource parents were asked to score themselves on a 10-point scale. The average response was 7.4 on the pre-test and increased to 8.7 on the post-test. Furthermore, there was a 24% increase in the number of resource parents who rated themselves at a 7 or above on their knowledge to answer questions about college planning. Next slide. Both surveys asked resource parents and FKCE teachers to rate the level of responsibility that social workers and caregivers have for college planning. The questions were asked separately with a 5-point Likert scale. The table demonstrates that attending the courses appears to have increased resource parents' sense of responsibility, as well as their understanding of the role of the social worker. A co-occurrence analysis found that 12% of the resource parents selected positive ratings, agree or strongly agree, for both social worker responsibility and caregiver responsibility questions in the pre-survey. In the post-survey, the co-occurrence analysis for positive ratings was 31% for those same questions, a 158% increase. The co-occurrence rate for positive ratings by the FKCE teachers was 44%. Overall, all of these shifts from pre to post bring resource parent ratings to be more in alignment with the FKCE teachers. Next slide. The change in resource parent responses from pre to post survey for a few more questions are found in the blue table. The change is small because the pre-survey responses were higher than expected. FKCE teachers also answered the same questions as the resource parents regarding their own attitudes and beliefs, and some of the responses are in the orange table. 55% of FKCE teachers agreed or strongly agreed that youth in foster care are interested in college, as compared to 55% of the FKCE parents, as the resource parents at post-survey, as mentioned in an earlier slide. 89% of teachers agree that college planning makes a difference, as compared to 100% of parents after the course. 100% of teachers agree or strongly agree that it is important for youth in foster care to attend college, compared with 97% of the parents in the post-survey. And 67% of teachers agree or strongly agree that it is realistic to expect youth in foster care to pursue post-secondary education. Next slide. Resource parents were asked to share any activities related to college planning that they had engaged in during the 3 months since they attended the training. The 3-month period between course completion in the fall of 2019 and the follow-up in early 2020 was characterized by holiday-related school breaks, and the 3-month period after course completion in early 2020 was characterized by pandemic concerns, which eventually led to school closures. Despite these significant issues and the short 3-month window of time, there was evidence that resource parents were engaged in important college planning activities. 24% reported that they were talking to youth about college, and 32% were talking with the social worker about college planning for the youth in their care. Next slide. Additionally, 38% were talking to youth about educational goals, and 16% had helped youth set educational goals. FKCE teachers were asked in their survey to evaluate the effectiveness of the course to change the comfort level and knowledge of resource parents. A 10-point scale was provided, and the average score was 9.3. 67% of the teachers who completed the survey rated this question with a 10. In the focus group, the FKCE teachers expanded on this result to share that while the course content is definitely effective, there are many barriers that may still prevent resource parents from fully utilizing what they learned. They talked about how the educational rights for youth in foster care often do not reside with the resource parents, and this limits their reach to help youth to make important decisions. They talked about the transient lives of youth in foster care and the emotional walls that may block strong relationships from forming and limit the investment of the child, the resource parent, and the social worker in educational goal setting. They felt it was important to be hopeful as well as realistic about the extent to which courses can overcome the challenges that are inherent to the foster care system. Next slide. To assess retention of course content, resource parents were asked in the post survey and 3 months later to recall the 3 best ideas that were learned. Their entries were categorized into 5 content areas: parenting strategies, such as to start planning for college, visits to college, and advocating for educational support services in K-12. The second was financial aid and grants, including FAFSA applications, Chafee grants, and scholarships. The third category was college programs, such as Guardian Scholars and EOP. The fourth was independent living plans, and the fifth was social worker support. Overall, the recall from immediately after the class to 3 months later remained stable, as demonstrated by the table on your slide. Next slide. Both surveys included an opportunity for resource parents and FKCE teachers to indicate when they thought conversations about college planning should begin with youth. Before the course, 79% of the resource parents selected middle school and high school, the age range covered by the courses. After the course, the distribution of their responses changed, with only 54% selecting those same categories and a 30% increase in the selection of preschool. The post-survey responses by the resource parents are well aligned with the responses by the FKCE teachers to the same question. In fact, the FKCE teachers suggested in the focus group that the courses expand the target audience to resource parents with children younger than 6th grade. Therefore, it is recommended to offer this curriculum to resource parents of children in elementary school. Next slide. During the focus group, The FKCE teachers responded unanimously that both resource parents and social workers are responsible for college planning with youth in foster care. They discussed the importance of strong positive relationships for youth with their resource parents and their social workers. They believe there is a connection between the strength of the relationship and the investment of all involved to provide the support and guidance that youth need to plan for and transition to college. They felt there should be communication about roles and responsibilities and offered examples such as the importance of someone accompanying youth when they move into college dorms, or an invested adult attending college planning meetings in high school with the youth. They suggested providing a form for the educational goals of each youth that is stored in the home, in the school file, and in the case file. They felt it was important that these goals are known to all involved in the care of the youth, especially when they move to a new home or school, or when they are transferred to a different social worker's caseload. Next slide. In the focus group, the teacher suggested including information about dual enrollment and warning resource parents about the lack of housing for students who choose community or college or trade school. There was concern about the extent to which resource parents and the youth fully understand the unintended consequences of the choices they make. Dual enrollment might be difficult to manage in high school, but it will also give the student college units in advance to ease the burden of the first semester while also learning to live independently. The choice to attend community, college, or trade school for the lower cost might be misplaced when considering that four-year universities offer scholarships that include housing. Next slide. Courses were abruptly canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic, limiting data collection. Although FKCE converted to online delivery of the content, the potential differences between the two groups of participants associated with the constraints of a pandemic and inequitable internet access contributed to the decision to limit the evaluation to classes with on-site delivery prior to COVID-19. I believe that the change to online delivery can be very effective and included some recommendations as requested. Online classes cannot simply be a live streamed version of an in-person class because of the level of distraction and engagement is different in the home. Online course delivery must be intentionally designed and planned for that purpose by using the specific features of the platform to provide opportunities for the participants to interact, share ideas, and ask questions. Examples are breakout rooms for pairs or small groups to engage in an activity, or for a facilitator to solicit input from everyone in the small group about a topic. Expectations for camera use, muting of microphones, and backgrounds will prevent issues from arising and taking away from instructional time. Flexibility and understanding the lack of control that participants may have about the activity level in their homes during class is needed, and giving participants a break from the camera can prevent fatigue. Additional staff to help manage technical issues and to support the people who are presenting is highly recommended. Next, I'll turn it over to Melissa to wrap things up.
Great, thank you so much, Leslie. And also thanks to Barry and Maria as well for your presentations and contributions to the success of this project. Before opening things up to Q&A, I want to highlight some main takeaways and next steps. So we are really encouraged by the findings of this independent evaluation. We are excited that there is a new supported tool to add to our toolbox of strategies to empower foster youth and their college dreams. The curriculum that we've discussed has the potential to make a difference in the benefits, attitudes, and knowledge of resource parents, as well as their actions. So that's very exciting. Number two, I want to underscore the importance of partnerships. The partnerships between JBay and FKCE and the policy support from DCFS, all of that working together exemplifies a unified effort that is needed to enact positive change and to really pull off something of this magnitude. Number three, a leadership example. As I mentioned before, DCFS LA is the first and only county in California to require such a training for caregivers. And the willingness of FKCE to take the lead on training delivery through their existing infrastructure and their nimbleness in terms of converting things to an online platform for COVID-19 are really inspiring and showing the way in which we as partners have uplifted each other and supported each other to meet the challenges of the current climate. In the end, in short, this model can be replicated elsewhere to continue the work to support foster youth throughout the state to achieve their college dreams. So what's ahead? In terms of next steps, we want to continue working with Foster Parent College to convert these trainings to an online platform accessible to caregivers throughout California. Note that Foster Parent College currently has a contract with CVSS to provide these trainings to caregivers in California. We also want to expand this training requirement to all resource parents, including those served by probation. Third, we want to continue to improve online delivery of courses to respond to the challenges of COVID-19, including issues of access. And lastly, we want to explore the possibilities for a similar training mandate statewide. So now I want to turn it over to you. This concludes the presentation part of the webinar, but if anybody has any questions, we would be happy to respond. Just as a reminder for GoToWebinar to submit questions, you can do so on the questions section of the panel, and we will be happy to respond. Thank you so much for everybody's attention.
All right, so this is Debbie with John Burton Advocates for Youth, and I'm going to help moderate the Q&A portion of the webinar. So Melissa, the first question that's come in is actually for you. So you mentioned the curriculum that are posted on the JBay website. Is that something that, you know, another county could just download and use? Is it proprietary, or can anybody utilize that resource?
Oh, absolutely. This is non-proprietary information, free to anybody to download, and we would love it if you did that. Again, if you go to the JBay website, which is www.jbay.org, and you go under the resource tabs under curriculum, you can download not only Turning Dreams into Degrees, including a Train the Trainer and slides regarding all of this information. You can actually access any other of JBay's curricula and information there. We really encourage that. And if anyone needs any support in doing so, feel free to reach out to me. And my email is located on that last slide there.
Great. So the next question is for Maria. Somebody wanted to know, Maria, if it's possible to take these courses if they're not a foster parent. So if you can address that question, and then I can speak to some of the other resources that are also available.
Thank you. Sure. So the FKCE program is funded to provide classes to resource parents. So that is our target audience. So you really would need to be a resource parent or a prospective resource parent to take one of the courses. However, the curriculum is available online. As Melissa mentioned, it's free of charge. You can download it and read it over and take a look at it. So I think if you're able to access the material online, that would be helpful as well. But again, our target population are resource parents.
Great. So the next question is for Barry. And before I jump into the question, I actually, I want to echo something that Melissa has said, which is that, you know, none of this would have happened, of course, without the leadership of DCFS from Los Angeles County. And so this is just really incredibly groundbreaking to bring this kind of resource and training and focus on post-secondary education into the child welfare world and specifically to caregivers. So I just want to add my own recognition of DCFS. And then Barry, I'm not sure if you kind of have an answer to this yet or not, but I'm curious, you know, beyond just the sort of the evaluation that was done, have you had much kind of impression from caregivers or social workers as this implementation has moved forward? And any thoughts about, you know, if somebody else was going to move forward with something similar in another county, kind of what your lessons learned have been?
Well, thank you. That's a really good question. The impression that I've gotten so far has been very positive and has sort of echoed what the research has shown in terms of the importance of the classes and what it means to the youth. So I would just say that we've had very positive response. The social workers are on board with encouraging their caregivers to attend this training. We really have not had any problems in terms of, resource parents not being on board as well with taking the training. So that's really what I can say in relation to your question.
Great, thank you. So I realized I forgot. I said that I was going to talk about some of the other resources available for folks who want the training, who are not necessarily formal resource parents. So on the JBay website, if you go to jbay.org, you will see that we have a section for webinars, and there's also a section for curriculum. So the curriculum section, as was already mentioned, has this training. And so you can certainly view the slides and a trainer's guide and all of the information that's included in the training. But we also have a number of webinars recordings posted on our website, including some, similar kind of College 101 trainings, as well as FAFSA and financial aid training specific. So I would welcome, anybody who's interested to go take a look at our content options there, and hopefully there's something on there that would meet your needs. And specifically, so I just got a question about informal caregivers, children having difficulty about applying for the FAFSA or financial aid. And do I know of any source that is specialized in helping around FAFSA completion? So what I would suggest for those of you who are interested in FAFSA completion, specifically for youth who have been in foster care or youth who have experienced homelessness, we are going to be doing a webinar series mid-October, one webinar on FAFSA for foster youth and one on FAFSA for homeless youth. And so stay tuned for an email to come out with the link for that. Maria, do you want to kind of speak a little bit to informal caregivers and what your role as FKCE can be with informal caregivers?
Yeah, so if you are an informal caregiver, we also can help you in the FKCE program. So we help both formal and informal caregivers. So you are welcome to come to those classes. And many times too, if space permits, then we let others come in. But our target audience are the resource parents and informal caregivers. So definitely you are welcome to come to our classes and take this course.
Great. And then I have another question for you, Barry. So somebody wants clarification that if they take this course, this is assuming they're in LA County, does that course fulfill their state requirements for training hours?
Yes, the 3 hours of training does go towards the 8 hours of training required annually. So it meets DCFS requirement, and it meets the requirement as written in the written directives of the 8 hours of annual training.
Great. And Melissa, I'm going to ask this question to you. If somebody's not in LA County, can you speak to kind of, I know you mentioned the foster parent college as a potential resource in the future. What's kind of the thinking around bringing this to a more statewide audience?
Definitely. Well, presently we have several versions of the curriculum in PowerPoint on the JBay website, some that are more LA specific, as well as those that are more statewide and things that can be generalized for a statewide audience. But we are presently working on, creating greater access to these materials through Foster Parent College. So Foster Parent College has almost completed filming of the first part of the curriculum that we mentioned prior, and they're now presently working on the second. They're about to start doing that, so we can reach an even wider audience and promote these materials statewide. I think COVID has really impressed upon us the importance of online delivery and access to such important materials. So that's something we are dedicated to working on, and those final, products should be available in the near future.
Great. So for those of you who aren't in LA, who are interested in actually taking the training and getting credit for it towards your state mandated hours, while that's not necessarily available in your county yet, there are plans to make that available statewide in the future. Maria, a question for you. Are the trainings offered in Spanish?
Yes, the trainings are offered in both English and Spanish. So you would just, if you are Spanish speaking, you would sign up for a Spanish course. So yes, they are offered in both English and Spanish at this time and different hours of the day.
Great. Another question for you, Maria. Somebody who's asking about the kind of credentials of the facilitators, and is there a certification, or how does somebody get certified to offer this training?
That's a good question. We actually provided 2 training for trainers that J-Bay and LA Unite provided with the support of FKCE. And those who are providing the training actually went through the training for trainers. So it was, I guess, an official certification or certification for those. So we did go through that process. However, if someone is interested in training, they can review the curriculum and work with the college who is hiring the facilitator to see if they meet minimum qualifications.
And if you're in a county that's not LA and you're interested in learning more about how to bring this curriculum to your county, please do reach out to Melissa, whose contact information is there on the screen. And we'd be happy to talk with you about how that may be possible. So there's a question here about STRTP staff. So STRTP being the short-term residential treatment programs. They also have certain training requirements. And Melissa, is there a curriculum posted online as well that's targeted towards provider staff as opposed to direct caregivers?
Right. So there's a great train the trainer as well. So we can really empower STRTP staff and also FFA staff to disseminate the curriculum to everyone within their organizations. So yeah, if you just take a peek on the website, there are kind of customized tweaks and various curricula that are intended for very specific audiences, and there's most likely one that would be fitting for you.
Great. So another question, I'm going to direct this to you, Melissa. So the question is whether former foster youth are involved in providing the trainings. And I think maybe if we want to speak to the foster parent college piece, and then Maria, maybe if you can follow up and share whether that's ever part of your training delivery mechanism.
Yeah, so this was an exciting addition to the online filming of Turning Dreams into Degrees that Foster Parent College has been working on. We really felt that it was important to infuse youth voice into those videos. So we were really fortunate to get a number of current or former foster youth with lived experience going through the college application process to really provide in their own words kind of a testimony or a story related to the importance of caregivers in supporting them through that process. And so the youth were really, really articulate and really underscored the importance of those caretakers as they went through this very long and onerous process. And I encourage everybody to check that out once the video is finalized. But the youth voice interspersed throughout the curriculum, I think, is such an asset and really speaks to why we do this, why we are focusing on it, and they're quite inspirational.
Maria, how about the trainings that you deliver?
So That's a really good question too. Several of the trainers who were trained were actually former foster youth who have been providing the training. In addition, some of the colleges added an extra hour and had former foster youth come and present. And also had folks from their financial aid office or Guardian Scholars program on campus present and added that extra hour as part of the training, just to sort of supplement and sort of add the extra services that were available. So yeah, the piece of including former foster youth is crucial, is important. You know, maybe it's something we need to look into as far as adding that as part of the training, but many of the other colleges have been supplementing and adding extra little pieces in there and extra time to ensure that, you know, the voice of the foster youth are heard.
Great. So I'm not seeing any other questions come in. I'm going to issue a final call. If you have any questions, go ahead and submit them. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it back to Melissa to close us out.
Great. If anybody should have any questions following this webinar, again, my email was listed on that last slide. It's just melissa@jbay.org. In addition, if you have any targeted questions to any of our panelists, I would be happy to forward that information to them, or if you want to reach any of them directly towards the beginning of the presentation, everybody's email address is listed there as well. And just finally, yeah, thank you everybody for your attention and for your participation and great questions. Following this webinar, we will be sending out a follow-up correspondence with all of the information we provided today. In addition, at any time, you can always access any of our materials on the JBay website. And again, thank you everybody for a really great conversation, and I look forward to discussing further. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.